Hi everyone. On the 8th of August 2020, yesterday, the Irish Government introduced Statutory Instrument number 295 of 2020, the purpose of which is to provide for restrictions around travel and the opening of businesses in counties Kildare, Laois and Offaly. At the outset, if you do not live in one of these counties, you may presume that this law will not affect you. However, you should be aware that the manner in which this law was created will facilitate the government in using this particular regulation for any county inside the state of Ireland that it wishes to impose an individual lockdown on going forward. So this regulation should be of interest to you. So what does the regulation say? The regulation is split into 7 parts. Part 1 deals with the date of commencement of the regulation being yesterday, the 8th of August 2020. Part 2 sets out the date this regulation will be in operation until. This date is noted as the 23rd of August 2020. However, in this regard, it is worth noting that this date may be extended, and in the case of many other COVID laws, the date of expiration could only be described as fictional, as most COVID laws were extended well past their initial operation period. Part 3 is the interpretation section. This section is important as it defines terms such as the following. Who is an applicable person? This is a person whose place of residence is located within a relevant county. What is a relevant county? This is a county listed at Schedule 1 to this regulation. And what is a relevant geographical location? This is a location to which an affected areas order applies. So in short, this regulation applies to an applicable person. So anyone whose place of residence, whether temporary or permanent, is located within a relevant geographical location, which we know under Statutory Instrument number 120 of 2020 is the entire state of Ireland, and a person whose place of residence is located within a relevant county, which we know to mean counties Kildare, Offaly or Laois. Part 4 deals with restrictions of movement relating to relevant counties, and provides at part 4.1 that an applicable person shall not travel from his or her county of residence without a reasonable excuse. We will look at the definition for reasonable excuse shortly. Part 4.2 states that a person other than an applicable person shall not travel to a relevant county from any other county without a reasonable excuse. Part 4.3 states that a person travelling from any county other than Kildare, Laois or Offaly may travel within Kildare, Laois or Offaly if they travel by vehicle and do not leave the vehicle other than to refuel or for reasons of emergency. So to recap, people living in Kildare, Laois or Offaly cannot travel outside their county, and people not living in Kildare, Laois or Offaly cannot travel to or within Kildare, Laois or Offaly unless they can avail of one of the government mandated reasonable excuses, or unless they are travelling in a vehicle, in which case they are permitted to both travel within these counties and exit their vehicle within those counties to refuel their vehicles or for reasons of emergency. Part 4.4 defines what a reasonable excuse is for persons residing within Kildare, Laois or Offaly to permit their travelling outside of those counties, or persons not residing within Kildare, Laois or Offaly travelling into those counties, and includes the following. A. For the purposes of attending work. B. Farming. C. Attending medical or dental appointments or attending such an appointment with another person who resides in your home or a vulnerable person. D. To seek essential medical health or dental assistance for yourself, somebody residing in your residence or a vulnerable person. E. To donate blood. F. To seek veterinary assistance. G. To attend to vital family matters. H. To attend a funeral. We will look at permitted numbers for attending funerals shortly. I. To fulfil a legal obligation. J. To give effect to access arrangements for children. K. In the case of a minister or priest, to attend to religious duties. L. To move to another residence. Or M. To provide emergency assistance, avoid injury or illness, or escape or harm. The most important point to note about this section is that it is not referred to as being a penal provision, meaning that failure to submit to this part of the regulation will not result in a fine or imprisonment. Part 5.1 deals with restrictions on events and provides that if an event is organised for cultural, entertainment, sporting or community reasons, with respect to indoor events only 6 persons may attend, and for outdoor events only 15 persons may attend. Part 5.2 deals with restrictions on funerals. and provides that with respect to a funeral, only 6 persons may attend a funeral that is held indoors and only 25 persons may attend a funeral that is held outdoors. Note that Part 5.1 of this regulation, so that is the organising or holding of events for cultural, entertainment, sporting or community reasons, is a penal provision. So if you break this part of the regulation, you may be subject to a fine of up to €2,500 or 6 months imprisonment. Note again that restrictions on those attending funerals is not noted to be a penal provision. Therefore, a breach of this part of the regulation will not open you to a fine or imprisonment. Part 6 deals with restrictions of movement of applicable persons in relation to exercise and social or recreational purposes, and provides that if a person resides within counties Kildare, Laois or Offaly, you are permitted to A. exercise alone outdoors, B. exercise outdoors with other persons with whom you live or with a maximum of 14 persons who do not reside with you, C. go out alone for recreational purposes, D. gather indoors for social or recreational purposes with other persons who reside in your residence or a maximum of 5 persons who do not reside in your residence. Part 6.3 also sets out the permissions relating to training with respect to a sport. Note that Part 6 is not noted as being a penal provision. Part 7 deals with carrying on or provision of a relevant business or service, and provides that the occupier, manager or any other person in charge of a business or service shall take all reasonable steps to ensure that members of the public are not granted access to a premises where a relevant business or service is carried out. You will note that Schedule 2 to this regulation sets out what is a relevant business or service and includes the likes of cinemas, theatres, museums, art galleries, nightclub, bingo halls, casinos, bookmakers, indoor leisure facilities, fun fairs. This section also legislates for the closure of pubs and restaurants that do not operate on a takeaway basis. So basically, just think of any venue that you might attend for recreational purposes where you might be likely to come into contact with other people and start casually talking about what is happening to our country, and you may assume that this business has been closed. You should also note that this Part 7 is a penal provision, meaning that if any business listed under Schedule 2 opens to members of the public, excepting on a takeaway basis, they will be liable to a fine of up to €2,500 or 6 months imprisonment. So a quick recap. People living in Kildare, Laois or Offaly cannot leave their county without a reasonable excuse. However, this is not a penal provision. People living outside Kildare, Laois or Offaly may only travel through those counties if they can avail of a reasonable excuse or if they are in a vehicle and may stop in any of these counties to refuel, noting again that this is not a penal provision. There are 13 number reasonable excuses for persons to travel from or to Kildare, Laois or Offaly, which includes the likes of for work, medical treatment or to attend to vital family matters. Note again, this section is not a penal provision. There are also restrictions on the number of persons that may attend indoor funerals, 6 in number, and outdoor funerals, 25 in number, but this too is not a penal provision. Businesses listed under Schedule 2 must close until at least the 23rd of August, unless with respect to businesses selling food or beverages, they can operate on a takeaway basis. So for clarity, the only provisions within this regulation that are penal provisions are Part 5.1, which relates to restrictions on cultural, entertainment, sporting or community events, and Part 7.1, which relates to the closure of businesses and services. Now, many people may look at this regulation and deem it not as severe as previous regulations. And you would be right, as many of the other COVID regulations made it a penal offence to leave your house to go to work or attend retail outlets that the government did not deem essential. However, in a free country and as a free people, we should not celebrate when we are granted scraps of freedom, because this is not what it means to be free. Please continue to ask questions. Continue to educate yourself. And if you are concerned about the government restrictions, please join me as a concerned citizen on the 22nd of August at 2 p.m. outside Custom House Dublin, where a demonstration will be taking place. It is not possible to impress upon the government, the media and the wider public the seriousness of the erosion of our fundamental freedoms without your support. Thanks for watching.